Wario, the man, the myth, the legend, and the strongly scented of garlic. He is one chonky boy in yellow, whom lusts after both women and treasure. Wario was introduced as Mario's second antagonist in 1992. A portmanteau of the Japanese word for bad, warui, and Mario, he was designed to be Mario's arch-nemesis. His name is literally Bad Mario, after all. Super Mario Land 2 on the Game Boy featured the Big Yellow as a crude and large foe. This was an experimental era for Nintendo, which you can clearly see in their marketing. With the popularity of Mario spin-offs, the first Wario Land game came out in 1994. His attacks involved rapidly elbowing enemies and throwing them. In a similar style to Big Red, he had hat-based power-up. Uncertain of how it would sell, it was marketed as Wario Land. Super Mario Land 3, that's a lot of land. The game functions similar to the previous Game Boy Mario games. There are 3 power-ups. Bull Wario was stronger, able to stick to ceilings, and able to perform ground pounds. Dragon Wario allows Big Yellow to shoot fire. Jet Wario can temporarily fly horizontally and walk faster. Wario Land became a cult classic on the Game Boy. The first Big Yellow game sold 5.2 million copies, which really surprised everyone. Chonk meta is profitable. In 1995, Wario would receive a second game on the Virtual Boy. What is the Virtual Boy, you Zoomers may ask? Well, it's a shitty attempt at VR gaming that's entirely black and red. What is important to know is that if you win on normal, you get a waifu. The waifu is wearing a revealing bunny girl suit. And if you beat it on hard, in under 2 hours, a message will pop up. You're a master gamer. You rock. The sales for this title are unknown, but due to the Virtual Boy's poor sales, we can assume it's not very good. Wario Land 2 was released 4 years later, also on the Game Boy. Nintendo decided to play up Big Yellow's chonk comedic powers, making him react when hit by environmental traps and enemies rather than having traditional power-ups. Ball Wario. If grabbed by a creature known only as Dunk, he turns into a ball. This is a crazy basketball-themed boss battle. Bouncy Wario. If hit by a mallet, Wario turns into a literal spring. Wario was a spring before Mario ever was. Write it down. Drunk Wario. This was censored to be Crazy Wario in the American release. He gets drunk when penguins throw beer at him. Not even joking. Fat Wario. Wario becomes a cake mukbanger. He becomes too overweight to jump high. The only way out of this form is exercise. Not even joking. Flat Wario. If Big Red gets hit by a smashy object, he dies. If Big Yellow gets smashed, he turns into a pancake. Pancake Wario can glide while silly music plays. Zombie Wario. If Wario is bitten by a zombie, and yes, there's zombies, Wario turns into the undead. Wario then enacts revenge on the living. There are a few others, but they're pretty standard, like getting stung by a bee and going into anaphylaxis shock. Not making this up. Wario is canonically allergic to bees. What else could Nintendo add that Big Red couldn't do? Well, there's an elaborate branching story path. You actually unlock one of these branches by sleeping in and not leaving your bed in the opening cutscene. Pretty great game. It sold a fifth of the copies of the first entry at 1.5 million. Wario Land 3 came out in the year 2000. Guess what? It's in color now. Game Boy Color. With 2.2 million copies, it did pretty well. Building on the branching mechanics of Wario Land 2, the game now featured a night-day cycle. The power-ups were mostly the same, but included Vampire Wario and Ball of String Wario. Don't question it. Only a year later, on the fancy new Game Boy Advance, Wario Land 4, baby. It didn't really add any new power-ups, building on what is canonically established, like Wario's struggle against obesity and his proclivity to become the vengeful undead. 2.2 million copies were sold. Despite this, Nintendo gave up on developing it entirely, instead leasing out the IP to external development teams from then on. In preparation for the GameCube, Nintendo hired a company called Treasure for Wario's big 3D debut. Treasure is well known for their games on the Sega Genesis. Just kidding, they aren't really known at all. In fact, as of 2022, they only have 10 employees now. They got what was coming to them for ruining Big Yellow 3D. Anyways, Wario World? It was not that good. The developers clearly loved American WWE wrestling, because in this game, Wario forgot most of his platforming skills and instead started pile-driving enemies. As a result of the whole not being good thing, it only sold a baby 400,000 copies. Solid 5 out of 10 attempt though. With the failure of Wario World, Big Yellow sat dormant for 4 years. Nintendo hired another shitty developer to make Wario Master of Disguise. You think the success of Nintendo DS would boost sales, but horrible design always lays a fat steamer on IP gold. The company was Suzak Incorporated. They mostly made shitty PS2 games, but they also worked on the F-Zero games for the Game Boy Advance, so props to them for that. It netted a 6 out of 10 on IGN, and a 60% on Metacritic, rightfully so. Why was it bad? Well, controls were a big part. Rather than having a jump button, you hit up on the D-pad to jump. You also have to use the touchscreen. Very cool, Suzak. That's how you design platformers. Master of Disguise sold 500,000 copies just over Wario World's debut. Rest assured, karma hit them like a truck. In 2012, they filed for bankruptcy. Fortunately, a year later in 2008, we saw Wario come to the Wii. Wario Land Shake It. Developed by Goodfeel, one of the developers loved the series so much he wanted to give the big boy with the dump truck ass a good shot. Design director Tadanori Sukawaki and Takahiro Harada sat their staff down and made them play every Wario Land game to start them out. The latter lectured the staff daily on how manly Wario was. He would routinely poll female employees for their impressions on the smelly garlic man. They never could appreciate Wario's greatness. Anyways, Harada and Sukawaki's love really shows. The game's art style is a flawless masterpiece of hand-drawn animation. Hand-drawn animation. They even brought in Charles Martinet to voice Wario again. No complaints here, solid game. Shake It sold only 1 million copies despite the quality. The damage from prior titles had been done. We may never see another Wario Land game, but this one was pretty great. Since then, Wario has tried his best as a standalone character, but just like the Shin Megami Tensei series with Persona, Wario Land's spin-off series is far more beloved by the community. WarioWare. Selling over 1 million copies on the Game Boy Advance, it was a humble start. Advertising micro games, opposed to mini games, the game was a collection of very short 5 to 15 second experience. Sometimes you'd be jumping over a car, other times you'd be plucking nose hairs, picking noses, or other nostril-themed micro games. The longer you play without failing these micro games, the faster the games would come. It just kept coming. ADHD Dreamland. This game was actually made in secret at Nintendo, nearly completing development before the bosses caught on. At that point, they had no choice but to release it. Anyways, there are 11 total WarioWare games, each bringing something new to the series with each system's unique hardware peripherals. Other notable spin-offs include Wario Woods. Wario jumps Toad in the middle of the woods, making him solve puzzles. Wario Blast. It's literally Bomberman. It literally has Bomberman in it. The series and spin-offs sold a total of 22 million copies. Aside from the few shit ones, they're pretty great. I think they're neat. We might not have another Wario Land. However, an indie game developer came out of the woodworks to make an unhinged spiritual successor known as Pizza Tower. This game is seriously fast-paced and completely unhinged. I'd highly recommend picking it up on Steam. It is the Wario game we never got. We can only pray for Wario Land 5, hopefully featuring Waluigi. Thank you for watching. Wario bless you.
Hi there, I'm Kit. I stream 4 to 5 times per week over on Twitch with daily YouTube shorts, daily YouTube videos, and TikToks as well. Thank you. Like and subscribe would really help me out. Smash that like button. I'll make sure to pay it forward to others in need. Thank you so much. I hope you guys have a great day. Take care of yourself. Drink plenty of water. See you next time. Bye-bye. Mwah.